Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Foundation Degrees in Early Years and Learning and Teaching. Today you are joined by myself, Sally Richardson, and I'm part of the student recruitment team, and also Chris Simpson, who is the programme lead for this course. So this is part of our Mardon Live series, so you've probably seen that we've got a number of events happening at the moment. So the Q&A is open for you, so please do ask us questions throughout the presentation and we will answer all of these at the end. So I'm now going to hand you over to Chris. Thank you.
Lovely, thanks Sally, and thanks to all of you for joining us online for the talk and for expressing an interest in the foundation degree, either early years or learning and teaching. My name's Chris Simpson and I'm the programme lead for both of those courses. I come from a background which started in practice when I worked my first proper job with young people who were in care with the local authority, so that was residential childcare, and I then went on to work in schools in a whole range of different roles and ended up advising schools on drugs and alcohol policies. I then moved into training adults and joined Mardon about 10 years ago, so I've got a practice string to my bow as well as an academic one. One of my main interests is safeguarding. So this online session is going to introduce you to the course and tell you a bit about how it works. It is a bit different from most university courses because it's a work-based learning course. And at the end, as Sally said, there's an opportunity for you to ask any questions, which we'd be really happy to answer. So we've got these two foundation degrees which run in tandem, and in fact they're taught together. Students are all working or volunteering in early years or primary or secondary education settings, sometimes special schools and occasionally something really different, like one of our past students who was working with a health visitor supporting young children and families. Last year, in the National Student Survey, which is an independent national survey which is run by Ipsos Mori, who are a leading research organisation, our second year students voted us 100% overall satisfaction for the Learning and Teaching course. This was the one that had enough students in the cohort to generate a specific rating for our course. And we're also really happy to say that we got the 100% for these points here. And I think these reflect the fact that the course is very practice facing. So it gives you a theoretical understanding of what's going on in terms of, for example, child development, children learning, but it's always connected to our experience and our practice in the workplace. And the assignments for the course allow you to write about the work that you do and to explore how to do it better. So how does this work? It's like all other foundation degrees at any university. They're normally run as a full-time 2-year course. It's also available over 4 years as a part-time course, and each year we normally have 1 or 2 students who are taking the part-time route, with the majority on the full-time route. And although it's called a full-time route, it's delivered in what we call a blended learning way, because we know that everybody is either working or volunteering in their setting. So the face-to-face teaching is limited to just 22 days in the academic year. And we have online a lot of learning on our platform, which is called Learning Space. You'll access this on the internet and it'll have lots of reading, clips, advice, and all kinds of things that you're expected to study in your own spare time whenever it suits you. We also understand that you're learning at your workplace. And then finally, a significant part of what our students report about their learning is that they learn quite a bit from their fellow students through sharing practice, talking about what's best practice, swapping ideas, And interestingly, actually operating as a bit of a job exchange. It's really common through the student network for students to apply for jobs and get better jobs, get promotions while they're on the course. They're very it's a bit like you're being schooled to be ready for interview, because we spend a lot of time talking about what you do in the setting, which is of course what you do if you go for interview. So it's quite common that students share if there are job opportunities coming up at their workplace, and it's quite normal for students to change jobs while they're on the course. So to come on the course, what do you actually need? You need a level 3 qualification, you need English at level 2, and it's our admissions team who can tell you all the detail about that, because there's a number of different qualifications at level 2 for your English, for example. It's actually quite a low tariff for coming to university, but we find that we tend to pick up a lot of students who, although they may not have already achieved very high qualifications, they often have very high potential, and some of them discover that they're actually really very bright. Last year at graduation and the year before at graduation, I was really proud to see 5 students at each ceremony who had come through the foundation degree and had gone on to get first class honours when they did their top up honours year. So it might be a foundation degree, but it's every bit as demanding and every bit as promising for your own achievement as an honours degree. So relatively low tariff, but we aim to get you up to speed rapidly within the first year. And students normally come along with at least 10 hours a week that they can show that they're undertaking in a workplace. This can be as a volunteer or it can be as a paid employee. And there will be a bit of flexibility around that because of the current situation with the pandemic. You'll also need time management skills and a genuine interest in studying these subjects, because I don't want to make any bones about it, it's quite tough. It is a demanding thing to do, to shoehorn a full-time programme of study alongside your other responsibilities. And that's why if you have a real interest in what you're studying, that's a help, because it will pull you through. It won't be a chore, it will be exciting and interesting. And we actually expect you to enjoy your studies. So it's demanding. I'm not going to tell you it's easy. It won't be easy, but if you're able to put the effort in, it really will reward your efforts. How does the learning take place? Well, we don't have a massive cohort. Our cohorts are normally between about 15 and 25 students. And that means we can get to know you all, we can have interactive lectures, we don't expect you to sit down quietly while we speak non-stop for 50 minutes, but we tend to put up a few slides, have a chat, do an activity, put up another slide, and generally our students have got lots to say and lots to ask. So it's an interactive style of delivery from a team of tutors. I teach on the course, but I have other colleagues who join me as well. You'll also be working in a workshop kind of setting sometimes, and for some modules you'll be collaborating online. You'll be blogging and commenting on each other's blogs. We also expect that in your workplace you will identify a member of staff who can act as your mentor, and that you'll have discussions with them where you reflect on your learning at university and what that means for your practice in the workplace. We're really good at specialist support, and every year that I can recall, we've had students on this course who've been diagnosed with dyslexia, some of them at quite a mature stage, I have to say. If that happens, we can really swing in a lot of support to enable you to achieve your potential as you study. And for all the students, it's usually quite a big step up. Many mature students will not have studied for quite a few years. That's really common. And studying at university is a step up from level 3. So we bring in the academic skills support so that you get to know skills which are really key, such as referencing, as early as possible. This diagram, which I'm going to email out to you after the session, is a diagram which sets out the structure of the course. And each of our years is divided into 6 short courses known as modules. And on this diagram, the taught modules, where you come in on the Friday and have a session with a tutor, those are shown in yellow. And then the 3 green ones are your reflective and professional practice. Those are your work-based learning sessions, where we deem that a lot of your learning takes place in your workplace. We won't be coming to observe you, but we will be asking you to write about your practice in the workplace, and that's how we'll assess those green modules. So, what routes do our students generally follow? Well, it starts with a 2-year foundation, or 4 years if part-time, and then you would graduate with your foundation degree. After that, you have the option to apply to join a normal honours course in the final year, which is the 3rd year. We call that a top-up, and so that would enable you to graduate for a 2nd time, this time with an honours degree in the subject of your choice. Most of our students, having done the foundation degree, get a bit of a bug for learning and they want to carry on. So most of our students are now progressing onto an honours degree. And then that will enable you, of course, to stop, step off, or you may want to go for a postgraduate qualification. And below there are some examples there of what students have progressed onto from the foundation degree over about the last 3 years. So there's quite a range of different careers that people are going into there. Often it's only when you come to university and you make use of our careers service, which is called Futures, that you actually realise how many doors are open to you. There's quite a wide range of careers out there that you may find you have an interest in them. If you're thinking about the early years route, this is what it often looks like. You've got your early years foundation, graduate with that, and then the most obvious choice, although you do have other choices open to you, would be childhood practice if you want to continue with early years. So you then graduate again with your honours in childhood practice, and then some of our students would opt to apply for the postgraduate ITT in early years. Learning and teaching, this is the route which is most often taken by, for example, people who are currently teaching assistants who would like to become teachers. Foundation degree is your first step on the ladder there. And then you've got quite a range of top-up honours years. Those are the ones which we currently offer at Marjon. Lots of our students tend to go on to the special educational need and disability one. And then after graduating with that honours degree, you then have the opportunity to go on to those postgraduate routes, which our ex-foundation students are currently on all of those at the moment on their route to becoming teachers. So what's the experience like? I've picked these 2 quotes from students because they encapsulate different aspects of the course. The first one I like because it shows that often students don't just gain an academic qualification, but they gain a great deal in terms of their personal development. So they become more rounded, more whole, and it opens up all kinds of areas of their life that they may not have thought would be touched by the course. And the second quote from a current year 2 student, I rather like that because it kind of illustrates that Marjon is a relatively small university and this course isn't taught in a massive great cohort, which allows us to get to know each other and to provide a kind of individualised experience to your learning. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be sending out an email to you after the talk has ended with further information that I would normally give as handouts if you had been able to attend an open day. And apologies if any of you have already attended an open day, because you may have heard a bit of repetition going on there, but you may have fresh questions perhaps to ask now. There are also other live talks that you might be interested in. You can book into this rolling programme by going onto the Marjon website and clicking on the relevant link. And now we have an opportunity for you to ask any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Chris. That was really great. It's nice to see the breakdown of the modules as well. So I'm just looking at the questions here. So I have got one for you, is in regards to, I think you may have touched on it briefly, is how will I be assessed? So what will the assessments look like for our students?
Okay, yeah, that's a commonly asked question, and they are all coursework. There are no exams, apart from there is a rather interesting one on safeguarding module where you're asked to collaborate in a small group. It's designed to mimic the real situation of safeguarding, where you wouldn't take responsibility for deciding on a course of action by yourself, but you do it with colleagues. So we have a timed session where you're together with about 4 other students. You get given a scenario, and together you put your you answer some questions. So that's the closest we get to an exam. All the other assessments throughout the 2 years are coursework, and we try to vary them as much as we can. So of course we have the traditional essays, but we also have students making academic posters. We have making creative artifacts, so teaching aids that you would use in your setting. We ask you sometimes to do an informal presentation where you talk about what you're doing, or you explain your artifact that you've made. And all of the assignments get you to talk about how you could improve your practice. So we always take it back to the practical side of your work in your setting. And that often really benefits the children that you work with. I can think of so many examples where our students have done a lot of research. They become almost experts, say they're a key worker for a child on the autistic spectrum, and they've made an incredible difference for that child and written about it in their assignments, which is always nice to hear about.
Yeah, that sounds really lovely. It's great that the actual kind of studying and the theory is then kind of pushed onto the practical side of things and actually making an impact in their working environment. That sounds great. I suppose I've got a couple of other questions here that might be linked to if people are potentially thinking of joining us this September. Obviously they work alongside studying this particular course. So what happens if their workplace has been affected by social distancing, and how will that potentially impact on application?
Yeah, that's something which is an issue that we're very much focusing on at the moment in the way that we're planning for next year. Normally we would ask for proof that you've got 10 hours at a workplace, but these days they're not all open, or they may be terribly busy with the unusual way that they have to work at the moment. So admissions are just going to be asking for evidence that you have approached a workplace, or you have a workplace in mind. This will probably affect just those students who are looking for a volunteering place. Many of our applicants will already have a job, so that's how they'll fulfill that requirement. And then as we go forward, thinking about what I just said with the assignments, it may be that your workplace is closed or you're not able to attend because possibly you might have to be self-isolating. And so we're going to build into our assessments the opportunity for you to either reflect on your past experience or to plan for what you would do in the future when you go back to work, or we give you a scenario, a work-based scenario, and ask you questions about that. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. That's really good to hear, and I think it will put some people at ease, kind of thinking about September as well. So in regards to teaching, obviously, come September, I know we've recently had an announcement on our social media from our Vice Chancellor. So what will the teaching potentially look like for this course come September?
Yeah, this is also a very good question. What we're going to do is we've already published our 22 Fridays to applicants and also to our current year ones who'll be coming back into year 2. We're going to stick with those dates and we'll plan to follow our normal pattern, which is teaching one of your modules in the morning from 9:30 to 12:30 and the other module in the afternoon from 1:30 through to 4:30. I'm going to be booking classrooms and hoping to be there in person presenting, or the other tutor will be. I really love the face-to-face element of the work. So I'm really hoping to be there. If social distancing is in place, then what we'll do is we'll probably have a small group of students coming in on each Friday, and that will rotate so that everyone gets a chance to come in. And the sessions are also, we're going to use the technology that we have in all our classrooms called Panopto. And we use this technology to film the slides and capture the audio, and we'll be live streaming this, and we also place a recording online on our learning space. So that will mean that all students will be able to either be there in person or to follow it live and to participate, bring in comments and questions, or if it suits them best, to catch up at a time which is convenient for them by using the recording. So we're staying with our 22 Fridays, and if the lockdown is lifted, that's great, everybody can come in all together, and if the lockdown is tightened up, then if needs be, we can go completely online.
Thank you, Chris. And I think it's probably a great time to kind of highlight here now how we've adapted so well onto moving on to the virtual side of things. And the feedback that we're getting from our students has been really, really positive, and that the support has still been so strong in there from the tutors and the academics that are obviously working with them. I've got one other question here for you, if that's okay, Chris. If they, what happens if their job changes during studying their foundation degree? Because I know you mentioned earlier about networking, and it's a great opportunity to widen that. So what happens if their job was to change?
Yeah. That's not a problem at all, as long as the job involves some aspect of working with children and their development. So we're completely flexible about that. It's just absolutely normal for people to move between jobs, and as I said, quite often people, sometimes they actually realise when they come on the course that the practice that they're setting is not as good as it could be, and they might actually want to look around and work somewhere where they feel they are more valued, or there's more opportunity to work in a style that they prefer. So we do see a fair amount of people moving between jobs, and as long as you're not out of work for ages, that's absolutely fine. It doesn't normally cause a problem. We just ask that you update us with the relevant details of where you are working. And as I say, for some people it will be a volunteering post, which is equally fine.
Thank you, Chris. I think that all is good to know, that it's fine to kind of move on to a new role as long as it's still relevant. And like you said there, it might be that people are looking to maybe go into an environment that maybe suits them a little bit or their working style is more suited to them. So we haven't had any further questions come through, so I think it's a good time to kind of round up, and I just want to say thank you, Chris, for your presentation. It was really insightful to kind of see the breakdown of how these foundation year courses do work, and also thank you to our attendees for joining us today, and I hope that you gained all of the information that you do need. So please do contact us if you do have any further questions. Like Chris has said, she's going to email everyone that was booked onto this event just with the handouts that would normally be if we were on a face-to-face event, and also if you are a current applicant, you'll be invited to preparing for your course session, which will be happening with Chris next week, so that'll be a chance for you to actually speak to us and see us, which will be lovely, and also
Thursday at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, perfect. And also just to keep an eye out on all of our other Marjon Live series that we have happening. So again, as Chris mentioned, the support that's available, be it for dyslexia, dyspraxia, disability support, we've got lots of talks on these on how you can get the support that you need from Marjon. So if you think any of that might benefit you, please do join one of our sessions, and I'm sure we'll be able to answer any further questions that you have. So once again, thank you for joining us, and hopefully we get to see and speak to you soon. Bye-bye.